This is Marc Rudov, branding advisor to CEOs and author of Be Unique or Be Ignored, the CEO's Guide to Branding. Today's topic, how branding resembles golf. Now, I wrote an article about this concerning Donald Trump because he believes that he should be campaigning at the end of the campaign with the same amount of force that he used at the beginning of the campaign during the primaries. And I completely disagree with that. And in fact, I called that article, Trump Ignored Golf's Basics. And that's what I want to discuss today. There are three components to each hole on a golf course. You have the tee, the fairway, and the green. The object is to get the ball in the cup on the green with as few strokes as possible. The distance between the tee and the green can range from 109 yards to over 600 yards, depending on the hole and depending on the golf course. But if you take the standard hole, it's usually between 300 to 500 yards, which means you're going to be using a driver on the tee, a smaller wood or an iron in the fairway, and on the green you'll use a putter. So you begin with a lot of force and control, but very little finesse, and you end up on the green with no power and all finesse. So with the driver, you're going to be smacking the ball, and with the putter, you're going to be tapping the ball. Now, this is important when you're branding. If you think of the golf ball as your brand, you have to deliver it from the tee to the cup in the green. And your strategy along the way is going to change because at first you have to overcome, in the case of branding, competitive gravity. You have a lot of forces arrayed against you. So if you want to stand out from the white noise, stand out from the crowd, the competitors, you have to do something bold and you have to get the attention of your potential customers. Steve Jobs did this in 1997 when he returned to Apple with the Think Different campaign. His enemy was IBM. He wanted to destroy IBM, and he wanted to show that indeed Apple was different, and he did succeed. He got everybody's attention. Does Apple still behave in the same way today? No, it doesn't have to. As a matter of fact, Apple can just show its logo, and everybody knows what company it is. That's how strong the Apple brand is. It's important to reiterate here that one has to use the right tool for the right job at the right time, depending on the stage of the campaign and the relationship with the customer base. You can't use a putter on the tee, and you certainly don't want to use a driver on the green. And why is that? If you use a putter on the tee, you'll be underpowered and you won't be able to overcome the gravity. And if you use a driver on the green, you'll overshoot your target. You'll lose. You need to use the right tool for the right job. And this is key. So as you move along in your branding campaign to your customers, the brand doesn't change, but the method of delivering that brand and the method of tuning into your customers will change because in the beginning, the kinds of customers that you'll get are very different from the ones you'll get towards the end of your campaign. And if you compare that again with politics, in the beginning, if you're coming out of nowhere, you have to make big waves. And that's what Donald Trump did. At some point, he has a dedicated base of customers, of voters. If he continues to use the same technique that attracted them in the first place, towards the end of his campaign, he'll be speaking only to the people he's already attracted. To get new voters, voters who have never even thought of voting for him before, he has to start using more finesse, and he has to delve into policy. When you're branding your company, the same thing is true, because the people who convert easily to your product or service, and company of course, are very different from the ones who are at the end of the campaign. The tire kickers, the more conservative people, the mainstream, they take longer to be convinced, so you need more finesse. The value proposition is the same, but as you move from the courageous to the conservative, you have to become a bit more subtle and use more nuance and adjust your technique as you go along. Again, you're going from using the driver to using the putter. You do that on the golf course, and you do it when you're branding. This is key. Today, Apple is not in your face the way it was in 1997. It's converted everybody. Now, one caveat here. If Apple really screws up, or the technology changes the industry, or some major competitor emerges and really gives Apple a run for its money, Apple will have to go right back to the tee. Start all over again and be bold and in your face to change the dynamics once again. But as it stands right now, Apple doesn't have to do that. If you don't know anything about golf, if you've never played, if you've never watched, there's another metaphor I like to use, and that's the rocket. Most rockets are 3 stages. The first stage has all of the power and no finesse. Then you have the middle stage and then the final stage. If you think about landing on the moon, it's very similar to putting a ball in the cup on the green. You have to use very small movements, and it has to be very precise. So if you think you're going to be using the same campaign and the same force and the same power all the way through, then you're mistaken. You can't do that. So when you get to the end of your campaign, whether you're trying to sink a putt or land on the moon, make sure you use as much finesse and precision as possible. Now, as always, I can help you with this. You can contact me. I'm Marc Rudov. Go to marcrudov.com. And remember, be unique or be ignored.